Good day. Here at Brookings Radio, we welcome Brookings School Superintendent, Dr. Summer Schultz. Dr. Schultz, good to see you once again.
Nice to see you.
I bet you're busy these days.
Yes, all of us in education, these first few weeks of August tend to get a little hectic, but it's sure an exciting time.
School starts in Brookings on the 23rd, but there's stuff, of course, before then for administrators and teachers alike.
Yeah, there is. And one thing I found out as a parent also coming into the school district is parents have, opportunities to get into their child's school as well. And so I really like that tradition that we have here. So
that's the 21st and 22nd, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I know my meeting is on Monday, so I'll be in a little bit different role for about 20 to 30 minutes there in the middle of the day, and excited to do that.
So how is it being superintendent and parent at the same time? That must be a little strange talking to your kids' teachers.
Yeah, well, I have been just blessed with, kids that like school. Obviously, Collins is my youngest who's coming over to Camelot. So, I've been through this before. My kids seem to be okay with it because then they have a built-in locker, in my previous schools where I was housed right in their school building. But, I think it also helps me have another perspective to things that are going on in the school district. And so I do really appreciate the value that brings.
Absolutely. And it's not uncommon, of course.
No.
Yeah. Talk about the start of school from the safety point of view, because we have 2 schools under construction right now.
We do. And as you know, a lot of things were rolling already in those construction sites before school was let out. And we have meetings often with the construction companies about what transportation in and out of those areas need to transition to now that, the summer months are coming to an end. And we know that the flow of traffic will look very different with school starting. But they're prepared, and they were able to get kind of a sneak preview of that last spring. And so, you had our construction along with the road construction in town. And I think, we really have to hope that people are. It seems like that fall sun is always brutal, too. It always seems hard to see. So we just really hope people slow down and look for our walkers and our bikers and that sort of thing.
Especially in those school zones. Mm-hmm. And especially the ones under construction.
Yes.
And Hillcrest, there is a lot of traffic right now because it's a detour.
Absolutely.
And that's probably going to be the same when school opens. I know they're going to try to get a couple more intersections open here on 22nd before school starts, but still, it will be busier.
It will be busy, and we have to allow extra time. All of us need to remind ourselves of that. Even coming here today, it took me a little longer than expected, and we just all have to be okay with that.
How is construction going on Hillcrest and Maderi?
It is great. It is great. The companies that are working on it, they are transparent and they are very proactive and keeping things moving. And the weather has cooperated this summer. And so we seem to be right on track with both. And so that's a great thing.
And construction will be going on all school year. So
it will be.
Yeah, people will adapt.
Yes.
Start of school enrollment, do you have a handle yet on where we might be?
I don't overall that I would want to share just because I would hate to throw out a number. We've been looking really closely, at especially those elementary numbers right now, at a time when kids are coming in and out, trying to make sure our class sizes stay, at an acceptable range. And if that means we have to move students with late registrations around, that sort of thing. So, I'll keeping an eye on that very closely. Had a meeting at the city office yesterday, and there's a lot of building, there's a lot of different housing options that we need to make note of over the next year, which is great for our community and our economy, but knowing that we'll bring in students and that sort of thing. So we're just always watching it pretty close.
And it's been really hard the last 5 years or so in Brookings to get a handle on where it will be. It's not following projections at all.
Right. Isn't that the truth from what I've read up on? Yeah, that makes it hard.
Yeah, it does. I think Brian Luters, the Director of Business Services, in his budget was figuring growth of 11 to 40, but that's in itself a pretty big range.
That's a really big range. Yeah, I think we put 11 in, and you almost have to joke with Brian where the 11 came from, but we do use a 3-year averaging, running formula and that sort of thing. So the 11 does have significance, but it would be like Brian to just pick an 11, but no, it does have significance.
At the school board meeting this week, you discussed in-town transportation that you're trying to get started, and sounds like it's a priority for you. Tell me about that.
Well, it absolutely is. When you look at attendance, you look at truancy, you look at students being successful when they're able to get to school. We know that not having in-town transportation is an equity issue, but it's also a barrier, and it's a barrier for many students across the community. And I think we see that even more so as the year goes on, and the conditions get harder for students to travel. But we also have a population of students in the school system that really are dependent on a ride to school in order to get there and to get there safely. And so I think we can't talk attendance, we can't talk truancy and kids in the classroom without knowing that we need to look at that in-town transportation. And, of course, I came on quite late here in the summer, and so I have to, give Nate, our transportation director, all of the credit that I said to him, I need you to pull this off for me. And he hesitated for a second, as the words came out, but I tell you what, he's going to make it work for us. Now, the thing I said at the school board meeting, and I want to be really clear, is, this conversation started in the last week of really trying to make this work, and we believe we can make it a go for day one. I know I can make it a go by October 1, but my goal is day one. And by the end of this week, right away next week for sure, we will be able to communicate with parents what that process would look like, knowing that a couple things with some licensures, that sort of thing, do have to fall into place in the next couple days. But I want parents to know that no matter what, it will come back. It's just that I want to be able to for sure tell them that date. And knowing that the capacity will only be one bus, and that the first months, and it could take us up to 6 weeks to get the second bus going. Okay. So my hope is that we don't go over capacity. I know that has been an issue, and so we're going to really hope that we can pull that off here these warmer months and not have quite as many people utilizing it.
And the hope is, I know, not just to and from school, but to activities and maybe to the Boys and Girls Club, that kind of thing?
We've always done a transit to the Boys and Girls Club, I believe. But this would be just similar to what it used to be, where it just brings kids from those outer, schools, where they have to get to the schools, and then we bring them to other school drop-offs. And so, again, Nate my principals will be able to explain that better, and so we will get that specific outline of what that looks like out by next week when parents are visiting schools and creating a plan of how kids are getting in and out with their child before that first day of school.
Obviously, parents are the ones who will need to know, and they'll get the word when
they will get the word. Yeah, I struggle to be able to say anything. As I said, this has come to fruition just so quickly that I'm about 90% sure I can pull it off on day one. I just need 1 or 2 more days to be able to confirm that.
I'm sure there'll be people who will be very happy.
I hope they understand that we do think it's important.
Yeah. Library policy has come up not just in Brookings, but in many school districts across South Dakota and across the country as people start objecting to certain books. And there is a policy in place, but you've modified it a little bit, I understand?
Yeah, I think our policy was created back in 2013. So obviously we look at all policies and look for updates and things like that. But yeah, this is, and we live in a society where information continues to expand on diverse cultures and ideas, and that's a good thing. But we also know that when we have those diverse and a variety of opinions and philosophies on things, that people do have objections, and family cultures and family dynamics are different, and so what's appropriate for one family might not be for another. And so all of those things and many others combined, I think we are at the point in our state and now our Brookings community where people are trying to say, hold on, we don't think that certain material is appropriate to be in libraries. And that's very delicate because we have to but they're library books and writings and that sort of thing. And we also don't want to censor. We don't want a limited bias to censor what is available to students. And at the same time, we need to be empathetic that there are people that truly have a strong feeling about what is right and what is wrong for kids to be even just have access to. So it's very complex, Perry. It really is. And I think I'm probably somewhere right smack dab in the middle. I really do. And so with that being said, the things that we do need to look at is, because there is a challenge protocol, our committee needs to be diverse. And it needs to be diverse from people in the community and parents and teachers. And
this is a committee that will look at a policy,
yes,
a new policy.
And so the committee actually won't look at the policy, but what policies have and what ours has, and most do, is if someone challenges a book.
Gotcha.
So when they challenge the book, the committee that looks at that challenge needs to be diverse, so that we don't know how that committee is going to vote, so to say, on whether to keep that book or let that book go and not be available to students. I need that committee to be so diverse that I don't know which way they're going to select, that I can truly put it to that committee and say, you each have a vote, and that committee will see things all very differently. And that's what I need to get in place, right? And so we're working on that. But the thing we are putting in, not through policy, but through just procedure, is a way for parents right now to be able to go on and get a form that says, I do not want my child to check out specific book titles. And then that way the parent can have a conversation with their child, both sign off on it, it gets turned into the building administrator and eventually the librarian. And so we will put that power back in parents' hands in order to limit certain titles that they know are controversial and they just don't want their kids checking out. And that they have that right to do that, and I want to make sure they know that. Do
you then take these books that might be controversial in the library and set them in a separate place? Or how do you deal with that?
That is hard.
Because any kid can go into a library during their
absolutely
free period and, I'm going to look at this.
Right. I don't have all of those things. We don't have all those things ironed out.
It's not an easy thing.
It is not, and we also know in this world of accessibility and other libraries and interloans and that sort of thing that
not to mention the internet.
Yeah, the internet. But what I hope comes of it is that conversation that parents can have with their child to say, these are our family values, and these, these particular books don't support that, and I'd rather you stay away from it. So although there might not be a foolproof way, it allows for that conversation. And then it allows our school librarian to also understand that about a child and the child's family and help direct them towards books that may be more fitting. Obviously, we can't necessarily do that with every situation, and so that's where the paperwork will come in handy, but it's a way to get started and put that authority back on parents so that a community member's bias doesn't necessarily reflect how every parent and every family is going to feel. And so we're trying to gauge that delicately and keep a balance.
As you say, everyone is going to find something different, objectionable.
Absolutely.
I mean, everyone.
Yeah.
So you got to find some balance there somewhere, and it sounds like this diverse committee might be a good way to do that.
I hope so, and we also need to provide them, some protection also to know that because it's such a, controversial and contentious issue, I need people willing to do it too, and not feel like if they're willing to put their time in for this, that that will put them then in the in the spotlight for that controversial piece that comes with some of these decisions. I get paid for that, but they won't, and so I need to protect that process too. And so we're just in those beginning stages of looking at what some of the other schools have done and found success with. Because by no means will it make everybody happy, but we have to, have a valid and respectful and truthful, honest process.
We're out of time. Dr. Schultz, thank you very much. Yep. Right here at Brookings Radio. As Brookings School Superintendent Summer Schultz, thank you very much.
Thank you, Perry.